We're the Cora Horse. We're feeling cute. Might change the world later. I don't know. We do what we want. We do it live. That's right. I'm getting ready for some people to join us. I want to tell you guys a few things here. First of all, the Church of Korahort is a spiritual community for godless people. Is that you? Are you sure? And every week we get together and we have godless sermons here on the internet. And one day we'll have them in person some places too. That'll be fun. But for now, I don't know. It's like anonymous, weird, like cyber community thing is like, it's working for us. I mean, why would you give up on something that's working, right? I have no liquid caffeine in the house. And it's early Sunday morning. And I just do not. I was working on today's sermon and said, there is no way I'm taking a break to go and get caffeine. So Jessie caffeine, it shall be. Some of you aren't going to get that because you were young and your childhoods were not as good. There's an episode, a very controversial episode, Saved by the Bell, where Jesse Spano gets hooked on caffeine pills, and it was like an after school special, and like people still talk about how is that really about caffeine pills, getting addicted to caffeine pills, like it's heroin. I might be drinking hard. I might be drinking hard stuff first thing in the morning. Don't judge me. It was what I had around. Anyway, let's sermonize. We are going to celebrate with the anthem of the Church of Korahort, which has got a cool new look. It's the first hymn I ever wrote. I'm still proud of it. Still one of my favorites. Maybe my favorite hymn of all time. And a good way to kill some time while I pull together my notes for a sermon. So, O Korahort.
O Korahort, you dare to speak forbidden truths that make men free by Alma's hand, unholy sorcery. They stole your voice for Nephite tyranny. From hypocrisy,
I feel this unholy spirit. Do you feel this? I mean, good damn. Good damn. Let's get rid of that song. We got work to do. My friends of the Church of Korihor, I have very exciting announcements. First, we have to get something out of the way because it's weighing down on my soul. And I got to get this righteous vindication one way or another. You know what I'm saying? I got to get this. I got to fill this. I got to fill this space with some things here. Okay. While I'm feeling judgmental, don't judge me. But this has irked me. This has pushed me over the edge. Unless I see something drastically change in the next 24 hours, I am going to release this open letter and send it to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm sorry, but it's not political. It's moral at this point. I finally get what the Mormons have been saying all this time. It's like, it's not political, it's moral. And I'm like, okay, except for you guys, for them, it really was political. But for me, I don't expect the government to change what it does. I don't expect anybody to vote a different way because of what I'm about to say. But I'm going to read you a little something that I have written and then said, I'm not going to release this. I was going to release it yesterday, day before yesterday. And so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to sit with it and see if I feel this way by the end of the day on Saturday. And then Saturday night, I said, I'm going to sit with it and see if I still feel this way on Sunday morning. If I still feel this way on Sunday morning, I'll read this and we'll release it with the press release when I send this open letter on Monday. And this is, I still feel it. I still feel it passionately. There's some people who won't like me after this. It's okay. You know, don't let the door hit you where meiosis split you. I'm not really sure that's how that works. This is it. An open letter. An open letter to President Trump, marked August 4th, 2025. Mr. President, we undersigned are atheists, agnostics, and people of conscience in the United States of America, and we do not pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. When you suggest that you are allowed to use that power imparted to you by voters to pardon Ms. Maxwell, be advised that we, your constituents, dissent. A federal jury found Maxwell guilty of 5 counts, including sex trafficking of minors, for recruiting and grooming teenagers for Jeffrey Epstein. She was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment in spite of prosecution seeking a much longer sentence. Mr. Trump, following your statement to the media that you are allowed to pardon Ms. Maxwell, the family of her victim, Virginia Giuffre, has stated Ghislaine Maxwell is a monster who deserves to rot in prison for the rest of her life. The government and the president should never consider giving Ghislaine Maxwell any leniency. The president cannot overturn a jury's conviction. Her pardon would instead condemn her victims and women and girls all over this hurt nation to a life of fear that someone with money can hurt or even rape them and get away with it. Sir, you were elected on the promise that you would release the Epstein files. When you reneged on that promise, you betrayed your supporters and you vindicated your critics. By pardoning Maxwell, you would give warrant to all suspicions that have been raised by your association with her and with Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. President, you could come out on the right side of history here. You were elected to be a leader, so lead this nation toward healing, prevention, and justice. Let that be your legacy instead of suspicion, fear, and shame. As a herald of reason, I am bound by my office and by my conscience to challenge you to 1. Publish a press release through the White House Communications Office and on whitehouse.gov committing that you will not grant clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell, now or ever. 2. Send an open letter of apology to the family of Virginia Giuffre and to other victims of Maxwell and Epstein, asking for their forgiveness for the hurt that has been caused by your entertaining a pardon for Miss Maxwell. 3. Organize a donation drive to benefit Safe Horizon, Polaris Project, and Girls Educational and Mentoring Services, organizations that have supported victims of Epstein and Maxwell. And 4, send an open letter to Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, expressing your personal support for the public release of all materials related to the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Trump, I know you're getting a lot of criticism right now. Let's come out of this as a people united against sex trafficking. Should you need advice or support, I remain at your service on part of the Godless Church of Korihor and the undersigned. Respectfully, Joe Rawlins, First Herald of the Church of Korihor. Amen. You get some comments roaring with an amen or two. Okay, I'm getting them. We're already getting them. I wasn't even finished by the time I have people saying, send it. Right? I got the support of Jules. The Jules del Sol is with me. Who can be against me? Let it be Jesus. Burn us both at the same time. Apparently he's a hateful red hat now. Guess he always was, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, if I don't see something major change in the next 24 hours, I'm sending it tomorrow. That's that. I'll send it to the media. I don't care. I'm doing it. If we can't speak reason about this, then what, right? Everybody, some of you remember a Godless sermon I gave a few weeks ago, several weeks ago, actually, now, which was forgetting is not forgiving, in which I talked about Martin Niemöller. You know, when a fascist regime took over his country, you know, he didn't say anything. And famously, after he was done, that's right. And famously, after the war was over, he had spent the majority of it in concentration camps because at first he supported everything until, of course, his Protestant church suffered a takeover. And I talked in that same sermon about Max Sievers. You guys know I've gone on and on about Max Sievers, who was the chairman of the German Freethinkers League, the largest atheist organization to exist anywhere up to that point, with over 500,000 Germans and Austrians, and German-speaking people anyway, who were members of this atheist organization. And it was raided, their Freethinkers Hall was raided when the Reichstag fire happened, and it was just taken over, and the building basically was emptied of all of the voter rolls, all the subscriber rolls of the members of the German Freethinkers League. By then, Max Sievers had managed to get everything sensitive out of the building, fully anticipating that one of Hitler's first moves would be to come after the atheists. Martin Niemöller, who was a Christian preacher at that time, would later say, as has been frequently recorded in Holocaust museums across the world, around the world. I'm going to go and get my glasses adjusted professionally because I never get them quite right. I do it myself and then I never do it right. You guys, any glasses wearers know this problem? Anyway, you see his poem. It's not really a poem. It's really prose, but it's now at Holocaust museums all over the world. And it says, I'll remind you, because it can't be said enough. First, they came for the socialists. That was the German Freethinkers League and the Socialist Party, because most of the atheists at that time were socialists, because Atheists are smart people. And he said, first they came for the socialists. And I said nothing because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. And I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. And I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. When they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. And he spent the rest of that war in a concentration camp, regretting that if the state was going to overturn that wall between separation of church and state, to tell the church what to do and what to teach, and tell the church to become propaganda for the state, he should have fought back and used the church to speak up, so that for no other reason than that if history were to judge him, they would know forever that he was not complacent. And this speech that he gave at multiple places around the world was part of his effort to organize a public declaration on part of the German Christian church to say that they were complicit in the Holocaust, that they were complicit in the overthrow of Europe because they didn't speak up, because of a sin of omission, of not resisting when there was a resistance to be made, not because they were a political organization, but because they want the world to know that Christians would not be a part of this. But Christians were a part of it. And we're not going to forget that the man who stood up and said, no, there's a reason to push back. There's a reason to say no. It's got nothing to do with politics. It has to do with people who will be hurt, people who will be disappeared, people who will be killed by this regime and their rights downtrodden and trampled over. That while carrying flags that say, don't tread on me, they're treading on us. Some man had stood up to say, I will push back. He was smart about it. He did get arrested in Germany, but he fled to Belgium with his wife. He had his kids stayed in Germany. They didn't have any, they were grown adults by then. He had a daughter by his first wife, I believe. Really an amazing, beautiful, but tragic story. The story of Max Evers. He married a woman who was a labor organizer like him back when he was organizing unions, and she was sick, and she passed away a few months into their marriage, and spent years convinced he would never love again. Found love with a Belgian French girl, I believe. And when the Nazis took over, they fled to Belgium. And his daughter remained behind in Berlin because she had a whole life there and she couldn't go anywhere. That's my understanding of it anyway. I'm still trying to get all the books about this are in German, and I've been trying to find a good one. Anyway, but Max Evers was the chair of the German Freethinkers League at that point, and their building in Berlin, Freethinkers Hall, was raided by the Nazis, and it was converted into a new department for reinvigorating Christian faith in Germany. I don't know how many of you have been paying attention, but the executive branch of this country just established an office almost of the exact same name just this last week. That organization in Germany operated out of Freethinkers Hall. They called it whatever they called it, but it was Freethinkers Hall. It was like a church for atheists. They would get together, they would sing songs, and they would hear interesting talks and sermons. The German Freethinkers League was like the Church of Korihor. It was like the Church of Korihor, only much bigger. We'll grow. That's what we're going to talk about today. There must be a resistance when it comes to protecting people who otherwise are disenfranchised. There has to be someone who pushes back, and it will be scary, and it will be dangerous. And I don't expect anybody to endanger themselves in a way that would threaten their lives. So I would ask everybody else, be careful, be strategic, but be active, and move behind the scenes, move quickly, move decisively, and do something peaceful, safe, but effective. And don't get the Church of Korihor involved in the actual organization, but do something. Do something. All right. I want to show you guys some things. So when I started the Church of Korihor about 7 months ago, it was originally the idea had been to create a spiritual community that people could convert to when they were leaving Mormonism and other religions like Mormonism, especially the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Scientologists, and evangelical groups, extremist Catholic groups, mainly Christian faiths that have policies that state that you will be excommunicated if you join another church. I said, well, you have all these atheists out here, these atheists who are still technically Mormon, like I was for years, and don't want to have to write a book like I did, and don't want to have to go out and convince everybody that there is no God like I did to warrant my getting this letter. Should we do the letter again? Certifying that I was excommunicated from the Mormon Church. You shouldn't have to write a book like the Korihor argument to leave the church. But there are people now who use quitmormon.org and other means to leave the Mormon Church who have been reporting that the church won't acknowledge their resignation. They're trying desperately to keep people. They're even willing to break the law to make it happen. And I said, we need a church for atheists so that atheists don't have to pretend to be Christians or Jews or Muslims so that they can get out of the church that they were in. And I started the Church of Korihor, and lo and behold, I discovered a community of people who said, this is it. This is the moment where you get to come out with your spiritual development and share with us how you are growing spiritually as an atheist. And I went, oh, shit. Oh, I guess I did kind of do that, didn't I? I mean, I did start a church after all. Yeah, I think you would find it interesting. And I said, well, okay. And so I preached my first Godless sermon. We're going home. And what I was startled by was how many people reacted to this Godless sermon in such a positive light. How many atheists who, like me, had for years said, spirituality, who needs it? It's just a con by religion to convince you to give them your money, give them your obedience, and make you feel bad about yourself, I said. But the truth is that 6 years ago, I did start pursuing a spiritual path, just one that didn't involve God. God takes me out of it because gods aren't real. But that doesn't mean that I can't become a better person. And according to William James, kind of became like an expert to me, even though I didn't like William James. But as I started to read his book, Varieties of Religious Experience, I started to be really inspired and say, wow, this guy was really onto something. When he said, at the end of the day, all that it is, spiritual experience, all that a spiritual experience is a moment in time that you go into and come out of, and not the same. It is a moment where you transform. And I thought, that's the moment my daughter was born, or my son Elijah, or my son Jojo. Are those profound spiritual experiences? If a spiritual experience is something that changes you, you better believe that was. There's the moment that my wife agreed to marry me. There's the moment where we decided to become polyamorous. There's the moment where a partner who was not my spouse, but my spouse knew where I was and supported it. And I experimented with psilocybin. And well, I experimented. He was very seasoned, which is a good way to do it if you're going to do it, by the way. And I've told this experience now several times, but it's the experience where I felt a profound spiritual connection to all of the women in my family, dating back to the origins of human and of life, and this unity with their struggle. I don't know how many of you are noticing this. Like, I don't expect you all to have been with us from the beginning. This is the first time I've told this story that I can recall without mentioning that all this started when I was a Mormon missionary in Peru in 2001, trying desperately not to go into the bathroom and end my life. And that depression only got worse over the course of the next 24 years. I've learned to deal with it better. I've learned the dangers of white knuckling it. I got on medication. I got some therapy. I tried just about everything. I resisted most of it because I am stubborn. And few things in my life, nothing in my life, made as profound a change in my ability to cope with the symptoms of this chemistry in my brain and in my body, quite like that experience. And I was shocked when I came out of it and said, what time is it? And Winter said, it's like 10 o'clock. It had been 3 hours. I'm like, how has it been only 3 hours? I feel like I come out of this a completely different person. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, that's just the way it is. And I was like, wow. I thought everything had changed. I thought everything about me had changed in that moment. And that was years ago. And I've had more profound spiritual experiences since that day or evening in my life in the 6 years that have ensued than 40 years of life before it, including my time as an atheist. Now I've been an atheist longer than I was Mormon, and all my life as a Mormon. It's especially more atheist than Mormon when you consider that I was a baby for a while. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll never stop saying, every baby is born an atheist. Don't you forget it. And I said, well, damn it, if the Church of Korihor isn't going to become a spiritual community for godless people, and I am apparently in church, so we got to do this. Now, over the course, my first sermon, we're going home. I did say, and proved prophetic. You guys have seen the picture, right? Hold on. Proved prophetic. I will fail. I'll start again. I'm looking for people who have the courage to fail with me. I got some pushback on that. People saying, don't say it like that. Don't say that you failed. I will. I did. I have failed. And it was fantastic because you don't learn nearly as much from success as you do from failure. I'm going to take these off because I'm not playing anymore. I had some clips I'd pulled out, but they didn't turn out. Anyways, I was going to show you guys clips of the life of Brian, but I didn't get them pulled together in time. You guys know the life of Brian? Did a little bit of Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. I was going to do the life of Brian. I was going to do like all the cool, the Judean People's Front and all that. What have the Romans ever done for us? We'll do it next week or something. I know. Exactly. It sucks. But the Church of Korihor has failed. And you learn more from failure. And so I lean into it. I can't believe after I failed as a filmmaker and let that tear me apart and tear me apart and tear me apart for years. The first time that I did the first time that I did a course with Alain de Botton's group. Those of you who know me and Britt Hartley have a shared enthusiastic fanaticism. You know what a fanatic is, right? Winston Churchill said that a fanatic is someone who can't change his mind and won't change the subject. That's me and Brett Hartley, not Alain de Botton. And Brett Hartley, ex-Mormon spiritual director, whose experiences are so much like mine, in spite of the fact that she went to school at Harvard, divinity school, with a lot of other atheists, apparently, which is, I mean, like you knew it, you knew before you knew, and dropped out of Harvard Divinity School to pursue becoming a spiritual director outside of the Ivy League. But other than that, ex-Mormon, shamed when she was, kicked out of the house when she was like 16 years old because she had sex. She's told this story. I'm not shoving her out of the closet. She got her whole life derailed, tried to come back to the church, tried to find God again, tried to, went full spiritual because the Mormons had basically kicked her out. And in the process, found atheist spirituality, wrote her book, No Nonsense Spirituality. Now she's an icon. And one day I had messaged her and said, I heard you talking about Alain de Botton. I just want to say, you and I are so similar yet so different. And yet, if you like Alain de Botton, you and I. And since then, we've become very good friends. And I love that for us. And so, but I started up the Church of Korihor with a vision. Oh, I took this, Alain de Botton has this organization called the School of Life. And in the School of Life, you learn about philosophy and stuff. You take these courses. I think I paid $100 for this course, and it was during the pandemic, and it was all done by Zoom. I think they mostly do them by Zoom now anyways. They have like an annual conference, I think in France or something. I would love to go to that. No, it was in Spain. Yeah, in Spain. Anyway, love to go to that. But I took this course by Zoom, and it was great. And in the process, I was, kind of deconstructing again. But this time, instead of deconstructing God or religion, I was deconstructing my failure as a filmmaker. And I was talking to a woman who was just about one of the most impressive people I met. She was working on like her third dissertation at Oxford. I was like, oh, shit. Like, I'm Joe. I wanted to be George Lucas when I was 14 and it didn't work out. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm a 40-year-old man. And she said to me, she's like, forgive me for asking a question, maybe a stupid question. She said, don't a lot of people try to do what you tried to do and fail? Yeah. Well, yeah. And she's like what percentage? I said, practically all. And she said, so you tried to do a thing. You committed your whole life to doing a thing that almost everybody who tries it fails at. and you were surprised when you failed, when you were one of them. Okay, Oxford girl. Why you gotta come at me like that? Gosh. Why you gotta... Yeah, that's a good point, man. That was a good point. I mean, I'm like, damn. Who sent you? Who sent you? Did the Mormons send you? No, they didn't. She was an atheist. And she's like, it seems to me like you should get used to telling yourself, if this is a hard thing to do, and most people who have tried it fail at it, maybe expect that you're going to fail at it, but just figure you're going to fail. In the process, you're going to learn what it is you didn't know when you started, and just don't be like the other ones and quit because you failed partly at something. And she said, accept the part that you failed as a failure. Don't do that part again. Take the part that didn't fail and go again. Try again. Say, fuck that up. Let's do it again. Do it better. And I tell you, nothing in my life has made more profound a spiritual change for me and for the people that I love, including my family, including friends, including other people. This Oxford girl changed my life here. It's a spiritual experience I came out of different. And when I started the Church of Korihor, I leaned into it with people, friends of mine, who I am grateful for, who said, don't say you're going to fail. That makes it feel like the whole project is not worthwhile. No. If I went into this saying, we're going to go in, we're going to do everything correct, and everything's going to be perfectly right, and everything, I see the vision for exactly how this is going to be, and everything's going to turn out exactly as I foretell, I would be no different than Joseph Smith, who failed again and again and again and started again and just pretended like this was the way it always was. And Korohorism would be nothing different than Mormonism. Fuck that noise. Do you know that Arizona iced tea makes hard iced teas? It's not bad. I discovered them in my fridge. Hey! Nice to see you, AT Chick. Pretend I don't know your name. AT Chick, we were just talking about Germany. Where were you at? We were just talking about Max Evers and the German Freethinkers League. AT Chick is in Germany. Well, you're not in Germany right now, are you? I mean, aren't you in, was it Africa now? AT Chick is traveling. These Korihors be on the move. AT Chick, can I tell you something? Oh, in Berlin. Got to check out some cool Max Evers stuff while you're out there. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything, but I'd love to have that. I'd love to know if you go to like the to see the marker, the grave marker for Max Evers. I'd love to see that. Anyway, what was I telling you? So, anyways, but we started the Church of Korihor, and I said we are going to fail. We're going to lean into it, and I said, the first thing we're going to do, as soon as my first Godless sermon, I said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this magnificent failure we're going to suck at, we're going to fail at, and it's called Rapture 2025. It's going to be the first mission of the Church of Korihor. Instead of congregations like wards or parishes, we'll just have missions. And our missions are to change the world, to transform painful lives into lives worth living. I said, the first one is going to be... the first one is going to be Rapture 2025, which was a mission here in Salt Lake, in Utah counties, here in Utah, northern Utah, to purchase, make, and gather up as many blankets as we can and take them out to the streets and wrap up cold, unsheltered people in blankets. And I discovered in the process of doing that if I listened to other people who had done things like this before, I could avoid making mistakes. I could avoid failing and learn what was learned. I asked my friend Nathan, who is a founding director of the Church of Korihor, and suggested this idea. And I said, that's a great idea. I said, isn't it dangerous? And he looked at me and he said, no. And I'm like, he's like, well, no more dangerous than anything else you do when you're in the city. And I was like, and people are appreciative when they see you and you've got blankets and you're going out and giving them to people. They'll just be like, oh, good for them that they're doing something. He's doing something good. And he's like, and those people are so grateful. You never met sweeter people, and they're so grateful. And he's like, they're humble. They've got nothing left in the world. They're all they have left is what's on them. He said, and half the time somebody's going to steal it from them. And so they have to grow to be unattached to the things that they have, because they could lose it at any minute. Somebody could, he's like, he was telling me about, there's a woman, everybody in this community that gives support to these. Sorry, I have to check to make sure it's not an emergency. Sorry, just making sure that it's not an emergency. He said this woman went to the bathroom to use one of the public restrooms in Salt Lake and left her cart right next to the door. And by the time she came back out, just took a couple minutes to go in there and splash up a little bit of water on herself, came back out and her cart was gone. I said, was it the police? And he said, or another unsheltered person. And I said, to take somebody else's stuff, just they're in the same situation you're in. He's like, it's desperate out there. I was like, good gosh. And so then he asked me, he's like, my buddy Carl, he runs this organization that partners up with St. Mark's Episcopal up in Salt Lake City to invite people in for all night movie night, because they passed city ordinances that said that you couldn't make your church into a warming center to take people in and out of the cold, because it hurts property values. I mean, that's the rubric. I don't know that that's written into the law like that, but that's why. And so they said, well, this isn't a warming center. This is a church function. It's all night movie night. And we're having all night movie night, and they have these people, and they could only have so many people per the fire marshal. They could only have so many people, and this building would fill up. And he said, we need people to volunteer. And I said, volunteer for what? What kind of qualifications do you need? He's like, you're going to have to guard the door and turn people away when they come in and say, I need this. I need a place to get in and out of the cold. And he's like, well, we're full up to capacity. We can't get St. Mark's into trouble with the fire marshal and get them shut down. So we have to enforce it. It's like, we can only take so many people. So they come to the door. You take what you have: blankets, hand warmers, mainly, hand sanitizer, big bottles of hand sanitizer. You give them little bottles of hand sanitizer, they give them back to you. They're like, no thanks. They wanted the big bottles of hand sanitizer. Then they were giving out like big bottles of hand sanitizers, like about 1 liter, and they would give them burritos and pizza and soup and whatever they had, hot cocoa, coffee, whatever they had, they would give these people, and these people were just so grateful for it because it was so damn cold. It was so damn cold out there. And he said, and it's so hard to staff that enough people to have that door covered all night. And I think it was a total of 4 nights this last winter. I volunteered to be the guy at the door who turned people back out into the cold. And when I did, I showed up. At first, I had bought some blankets. I had found some blankets that me and Molly had around the house that were clean, but like kind of bare and tattered. I had friends who were at the coffee shop and not the gas station where I go in the mornings and get my morning Joe usually. And I told them about it, and they bought blankets and brought them into the coffee shop and handed them to me. They're like, take these to the people out there. Strangers gave me blankets. and I took them to St. Mark's 4 times when I was guarding the door. And then when I wasn't guarding the door, I took my son Elijah and I said, "Let's go and get some blankets." I had posted, my dear friend Jenny Gage had posted on Mormon Stories that that Joe Rawlins, ExmoJoe, at the church, at our church, the Church of Korihor, is gathering up blankets and taking them to the unsheltered out there. Can anybody help? And there's one woman, her name was Linda, stepped up and said, "I have blankets and I know my neighbors do too." And I contacted her on Facebook, and she said, "I don't know how involved I want to be with your church or whatever, but she's like, I'm already, on the outs with Mormonism." There was a crash, but there was not a scream. There's more crashing, so he's still good. Okay, bud? He's good. And then and she's like, "Can I just leave the blankets in garbage bags out on my porch and pick them up, and you pick them up?" I said, "That'd be great, actually. That'd be easiest on both of us." And here I am, not in my Sunday best. This is as close to Sunday best as I get lately. I gotta, yeah. It's a giggle. It's a giggle. Is that a giggle or a scream? It's a giggle. And I would go and I'd pick up these bags, and I'd head back up to St. Mark's because that's the only place I knew where there were people gathered together, unsheltered, out there in the cold. I didn't know where else to go. So I went back there when I wasn't volunteering, and I would stuff Molly's car full of bags and bags and bags, because this woman, Linda, she would go to her neighbors down here in Utah County, just down the road from me. And she would go to her neighbors, probably mostly Mormons, and say, "I know a guy who's gathering up blankets to take to the unsheltered." And like every single week, she had bags and bags and bags and bags of these blankets. Now, for a while, our project, we were planning to make blankets, like army blankets, and take them out there to the street so we can make enough of them at an affordable. What I discovered about my failure in planning and thinking that I was smart enough to know what I didn't know about rapture. Rapture with a W, rapture, is that I thought there weren't possibly enough clean blankets just sitting on people's shelves and in their homes, ready to go out. Good blankets, quality blankets. I thought there weren't enough of them to go around. If there were enough of them to go around, surely. Yes, Hallie, that's what's happening. Surely, if there were enough clean blankets in this predominantly Mormon community to put around the shoulders of every unsheltered person, and then they get ruined out there on the streets. That's why they tell you, these organizations that support the unsheltered, they say, don't get new ones. Don't buy new ones. Give us your old ones. If you're going to buy new ones, replace the ones you have and give us your old ones, because in a day or two, those blankets are going to be soaked. They're going to be, snowed over, and they're going to be threadbare, and just trashed. And if they aren't, even though the people try to treat them with as much care as they can, as much love as they can, there's only so much of sleeping rough that a blanket can take. And they said, and then the ones that are good, that are quality, that protect you, and that still look quality, someone will steal them if it looks like a good blanket. There was more than once that I was out in downtown Salt Lake as I started to learn where people gathered together and where they were. And I would be out there at about midnight, because I discovered another good point thing I didn't realize was that if you bring somebody a blanket in the middle of the day when it's not that cold, they'd turn it away, and it was harder to give them away. Whereas when there was actually cold, I couldn't give them away fast enough. I can't tell you how many people lying on the ground I found at St. Mark's, at Pioneer Park, on the street. So we just put it over me. They didn't even look up. You have blankets, they would say. Can you just put it over me? Of course. And I just put blankets on people. And I learned so much. One, there are resources. If it's something good and clean, but not new, there are people who have it. One. Two, those people want to give it away, but don't know how. Most of the time, it's just they don't know how. And three, you've got to do it. You've got to organize, be prepared to organize, and get out there when the need is dire, so that people will take the help. Because when they're not in such dire need, then you're just giving them another thing to carry around. So the need is driving. The moment of greatest dire need is when you have to be ready and show up. So with enough forethought and organization, he's loving it. My son has found the bed that I disassembled and need to throw away, apparently. Hey, buddy, don't do that. It'll stop for like 5 minutes. If you're organized so that when the moment of greatest dire need happens, you can get out there and react in the moment. That is when you are the most efficient and most effective. It's like a whole course on activism, on direct action activism. Was just get out there and try it. Get out there and do it. And then I discovered if I asked people to come out and help, people would say, yeah, I'll be there. I'll show up and help. But then life would get in the way. Oh, my kid went to the hospital, or oh, my husband or my wife, says is really an emotional need. I hate to bail on you, but I'm going to have to bail tonight. It's like, okay, fine. This is cool. No, I get it. And half the time I would either go by myself or I'd get Elijah to come with me. I'm like, Elijah, come with me. And half the time I'd be like, okay, you're going to help me distribute blankets. And then you're going to film me doing it. And in fact, before we get into the PowerPoint here, and I talk to you about JoJo, that he didn't get electrocuted. He's fine. He found the fuse box. While I go and deal with something here, this kid, man, I want to show you some video of this, actually. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that, buddy. Enjoy. I'll be right back. Blankets donated by Laura. You want to show us Laura's blankets there, Elijah? Jenny Gage from Life Take Two, also Second Herald of the Church of Korahor, posted on the Mormon Stories podcast Facebook page that we were gathering out blankets, and this woman, Laura, said, I have them. Like more than half of the blankets that we have distributed so far were gathered by this woman, Laura, who is really connected to the work. Thank you, Laura. Now we are here at City Creek Mall. We've decided to use the Mormons charity, their tithing dollars, to put blankets around people who are cold. Let's go do the work.
Like Korahor, I was lost and alone. Like Korahor, cast far from home. Like Korahor, they stole my voice. Like Korahor, left without a choice. But unlike Korahor, I can speak the path for me. Because of you, I'm not without a home. Because of you, I'll never walk alone.
Ended up playing with some videos after all. We're doing it. We're doing it. And so now Rapture 2025 became Rapture Albuquerque, Rapture Salt Lake City, because Jules Del Sol stepped up and said, we got people in the cold out here in New Mexico. Really? New Mexico? Well, yeah, it's still cold. And so she went out there and started up Rapture down there as well. Now, during the summer, our plan had been to make it more big and complex, and and I've been doing nothing with it because I've been working my butt off on a lot of other things I've been trying to get going here and failing in newer and more interesting ways. Meanwhile, Jules has kept going, and Jules has gathered backpacks and I believe first aid kits. Isn't that right? You're in Magna? Gene, I didn't know. We should get together. I have my mom grew up in Magna. That's cool. I'm not going out there. If you want me somewhere else, I only go by Magna when I'm in the area. But yeah, it's good to see you, Gene. But Jules has kept it going. Jules is a luminary with the Church of Korihor. Those of you who don't know, we have 2 tiers of clergy currently. Well, we have 3 kinds of clergy. We have directors who are elected from among the fellows of the Church of Korihor members. And then we have the heralds, that's me, who are the spiritual leaders of the Church of Korihor, and do things like organizing the canon, changing the bylaws, ordaining new clergy, managing church finances, managing church business, etc. And then we have luminaries who are like our missionaries. Luminaries don't have to be members of the Church of Korihor. We ask that they become contributors for at least $2 a month. And then, but what you do have to do to be ordained as a luminary is pass a criminal background check. We're, as far as I know, the only entity, the only church that actually requires that. Maybe there are others out there I just haven't heard of, but we're trying to raise the bar here. The atheists are raising the bar for what it means to be clergy in a church. If we're going to have a church with clergy, our clergy are going to be the exceptions. We're going to be the better ones. Yeah, you can be a peasant. I don't know if that's what you really meant to say, Alec. Oh, because of Harold. I get it now. I think every time I see Harold, I see Paul Bettany in A Knight's Tale. Do you remember Paul Bettany in A Knight's Tale? And I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And so we have these 2 tiers. And about 2 months into the Church of Korihor, I had invited another person who was involved in the Church of Korihor and passionate about our work, to become a herald. And so that I would have at least one other person helping me to shoulder the load, because I was stunned at how much work there was to do on the website, how much there was to do in promoting the Church of Korihor, how much there was to do in all the various ways of trying just to keep an organization growing and keep it together. And I was like, I could really use some help here. And so I ordained a woman. First, this is the second person I ordained in the Church of Korihor. First person I ordained to be a herald. And I was talking to Molly one day recently after that, and she said, "You realize you ordained a trans woman to be a luminary, then you ordained a woman to be a herald, and then you're ordaining your sister to be a luminary. She's like, do you ever plan to ordain any men? I'm like, at this rate, I don't know why I'd bother. And now there are men who have expressed interest in being ordained in the Church of Korihor, and I love it. I love it. I say we do it. And I want people to be excited about this. But Jenny, who was second herald of the Church of Korihor at the time, and I would sit down and have long phone conversations several times a week and talk about the future of the Church of Korihor and things that the Church of Korihor needs. And she would say, what do you really see, Joe, for the vision for what we do here, for what you and I are doing? And I said then, and I believe now, one of the few ways that I'm not fucking up, one of the ways that I'm not failing, except I could be doing it better. That's it. That I could be doing it better. And I said, our role is to support the luminaries, because the luminaries are going to be those people who hear the sermons and get inspired and want to do something that changes the world. There'll be people out there who don't necessarily want to join the Church of Korihor, but want to be wedding officiants and want to do that. People who hear about our divorce ceremony that we're organizing and fixing up. That's a great way that I'm failing, is that I don't really know nearly well enough what to do. And I had a great conversation earlier this last week with Kate Kendrick from an Exmo and a No-Mo Walk Into a Bar. Never Walk Into a Bar. Have a good one, AT Chick. Hope you enjoyed your dinner or enjoy it. Yeah. And I said, there are people who are going to hear this message and they're going to get connected to it. And we're not going to ask them to leave their church or leave their organization or join an organization when ever since they left Mormonism or Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever else, they said, I'm never going to join a church again. Okay, don't join the church. Just get ordained. People do it all the time. You say, well, is that possible? Yeah, these wedding, they have these marriage ministries out there that do it all the time, and nobody stops them. And, you don't have to join their organization to become ordained. You just have to complete the training. And there are some states that won't recognize officiants who have training unless they are officially affiliated with an organization, with a religious organization that is identified as a church, not a nonprofit. Center for Inquiry, I did their officiant training a couple of years ago, and they're like, in half the states, basically in the United States, we aren't officially recognized. Even once you complete the training, the efficient training, and pay the fee and do all this stuff, you're still not recognized in like half of the states in this country, because we are a nonprofit and not a church. And that is actually a legal distinction. Again, that's another reason why I said we're going to start the Church of Korihor and call it a church, so that nobody and register with the IRS and with the state of Utah as a church, so that nobody will have any reason to throw at us and say, well, you're not a real church. The hell we aren't. And so, so that's what we are. And then and I told Jenny, I said, look, our role is to support these people. I don't know how many of them there are going to be. I have no way of projecting that, but I hope it's a lot. And maybe not this first year, it's going to be a brave handful of souls out there. But in the future, I think that the Church of Korihor will have luminaries in every state in the Union, maybe internationally. And so I said, and I want to make it exciting to change the world as a luminary of reason. And that's what we're going to talk about, the big changes of the Church of Korihor today. So I want to show you some things. I want to tell you guys I'm going to show you a little bit of the vision for why it's exciting, what I've been working on developing for luminaries of reason. First is that we're adding volunteers. Volunteers are not clergy. meaning that they do not have to they're not required to adhere to the same stringent requirements, namely going through background checks and so forth. We're going to ask volunteers, people who aren't necessarily, you can be a member of the Church of Korihor, you can be a contributor, which is kind of like the fringe, or you can be a friend of the Church of Korihor, which is a free tier of our membership where you get access to some of our materials and some of our forums and things, and some of our websites resources, so that we can organize and so that we can get you involved in our organization. But you don't have to be ordained into the clergy. You don't have to go through all the same training. It just means that volunteers don't receive monies or donations for the Church of Korihor or for the work. They don't speak for the church. They don't organize for the church. They don't ordain other people. There's none of that responsibility with the volunteers. It's just like, if you want to do something to help out, we're going to start, we're building a volunteer system so that you can register as a volunteer, and we can organize to have a luminary contact you and say, hey, I understand that you're interested in doing this. Can I, or a herald, I'll step up and do what I can where there are not luminaries to organize. And then we will work hand in hand to organize volunteers who just want to do something to benefit other people. Since Lisa was asking, this is a concept I want you to see here in this demonstration. What shrooms and the Holy Spirit cannot provide, artificial intelligence will do for now. So these 3 images I made specifically because I've been mulling around the new mission for the Church of Korihor as we ramp up to reinvigorate Rapture, which again, Jules Del Sol has kept going in Albuquerque, while I have sucked at keeping it alive and kicking here in Utah. We're going to ramp up. We're going to do Rapture, which is going to now be a permanent mission of the Church of Korihor, not Rapture 2025, but just Rapture. And we're going to keep it going every winter. And we're just going to keep going every winter as those cold months hit. We're going to start gathering up blankets and getting them out there. And people, we're going to need people who are volunteers, people who will step up and say, I can drive blankets up to, from this place to that place, or I can take your extra blankets over to a warming center, or I can go and gather some blankets and you can come by and pick them up at my house. If I don't have to, if it's just a small thing that you can do that has a big impact, and you're willing to do just a small thing, take a couple hours out of your life and do just a small thing, a couple hours every week. We need volunteers. We need people who will be part of this massive movement to go out and change the world. And one of those, it's been really heavy on my heart. Those of you who saw my sermon a couple of weeks ago about how the United States of America from 2017 until now has set the record every single year for the highest number of people on record in America who have died of hunger. (2018) set the record. 2019 set the record again. 2020, 2021. Until now, we are now on scale, on par. That's not the term. We are on schedule to break the record again by the end of the year. The number of people in this country who die from malnutrition, more than ever before. And they'll tell us that it has nothing to do with policy. Well, policies were changed in 2017. They cut food stamps and they cut food going to seniors. And now every year, as disheartening and discouraging as that statistic is, that more Americans are dying of malnutrition every year than ever before, the really shocking thing is how that spike has been seniors. Persons 65 and older in this country, it's going off the chain how many of them are dying of malnutrition unlike any other time in America's history. In addition to that, I talked in the sermon I gave a few weeks ago about how if this using the Centers for Disease Control's Wonder System, I mean, it's only a matter of time. Who knows how long it'll be before powers that be shut this system down. But I was able to use the congressionally mandated reporting system of the Centers for Disease Control to discover how many Black and Indigenous people of color have died of malnutrition. And this is without taking into account how many of them died of insulin shortage. That's an interesting statistic in and of by itself, especially because of, it's very common. Diabetes is very common among Black and Indigenous people of color. And this, it was startling how many people in this country who are dying of malnutrition are either seniors or Black and Indigenous people of color, or both. So here's an idea. I run this by a few people, and this is what, if I'm going to fail at something, if we are going to fail at something, and they just cut it again. Thank you, MB, for keeping me on track here. And they just cut food stamps again, including for kids. Okay, this is going to reach a level, a pandemic of hate. That's what we are experiencing. I can't stress this enough. We are enduring, people talk about an epidemic of loneliness. Of course, we're having an epidemic of loneliness. We are a nation swept up in hate. And someone has to step up and do something different. If you think it's Jesus people, I hope it is. Those Jesus people out there, people who love Jesus, want to believe that he's alive and at work in the world, reach out to me. We'll partner up with you. We'll help. You help us, we'll help you. We're atheists, but we're not heartless people. If anything, we're people who feel. And so, but for now, I'm just looking to organize volunteers and ordain luminaries who will coordinate. I was talking to my partner, Winter. You guys have heard me talk about him before. I have a partner named Winter, and talk about this. I said, how much, who is probably one of the best cooks I've ever met in my life, best baker I have met in my life by far. When Winter makes food, people stop what they're doing to eat it. It's like, what do you do? What is there food? Did Winter make food? And I mean, people come together for Winter's food. They love, and for good reason. Winter makes the best food. And I said, Winter, correct my thinking on this. For marginally more cost in ingredients, you can make a big pot. If you're making a pot of stew or chowder or something, good food, or you're making a loaf of bread, for marginally more cost, you can make for a lot of people versus just for your household. And he said, yeah, no, that's part of the thing, is that, why, what are you thinking? And I said, I want to go out and feed seniors. That's all I had to say. I want a mission that goes out there and feeds these seniors. And we're not going to coordinate with the government. We're not going to go and try to raise a bunch of money. We will try to raise some money, but we'll do it at a local level. And luminaries will have to be organizing and putting it together, because I'm not going to have the time to sit there and handhold every step of the process. And if there's anything I have learned, it's that the more I try to handhold the process, is the more I limit the work. So hands off. I make a set standard of, what is required to qualify and to make it work. But then I find that when people like Jules are out there, when Jules is out there doing her thing in Rapture, Albuquerque, and she does it her way, she does it all the way. And if I try to get in there and get involved, it puts limits on her. So I stay out of it and say, what can I do to support you? And it works. It works. I said, what do I not know about doing this? I want to start a nationwide mission to cook food in your home kitchen, package it up, and take it out to the seniors in your community. And we'll do it on a weekly basis, maybe. We may start monthly. You know, and I don't know if you guys have seen like statistics on Meals on Wheels, but like the majority of people who get Meals on Wheels, where they deliver food to seniors, the majority of them say that the meal they got from Meals on Wheels is the only meal they ate that day. In some cases, it was the only meal they had eaten in several days. And these are the people who they're cutting benefits to. And they're dying of hunger. Checking to make sure it's not an emergency. It's a work urgency. Okay. So I said, what do I not know, Winter? You know this stuff better than I do. Winter's worked in activism. Winter has cooked for years, all of their life. And they said, I can make food. And it's not that much extra effort to make a lot, as opposed to just making enough for your family. It's a little extra effort, but it would be worth it to me. But they said, but I can't go out there and drive it all over the city or all over the county. I can't do that. I can't do both those things. That's too much. And I said, okay, so you're telling me what we need volunteers who can cook, and we need volunteers who can drive. There are people out there who can't cook or don't want to, but can drive, pick up some food, take it to this house, this house, this house, this house, this house. I said, but those people, it's too much to ask them to go out and find all the people in the community who need help. That's too much to ask of a volunteer. That's something that somebody who does this basically as a part-time job, as a clergy of the Church of Korhor, that's a job they need. And he said, if somebody else is finding the people and organizing the pickups and organizing the dates when we're going to do cooking, and all I have to do is pick up a few extra ingredients, make the food, package it up, and leave it for somebody to come and pick up, I would do it. Now, Winter has told me from the beginning, I love what you're doing with the Church of Korhor. I love the change I'm seeing in you. And no, I'm not going to get involved. He's like, because you're trying to draw me into doing more free labor. And I'm like, no. Winter doesn't know free labor. And we require too much, especially if people assigned female at birth. As a society, we require too much of them to give free labor. And I'm trying desperately for the Church of Korhor to not become another instrument to make especially women do free work, give free labor. Right now, we don't have any money. That's another thing I learned from my friend Beth Magnetic. You guys love Beth Magnetic? Beth Magnetic, I joined her community. She has a community where she trains people on using business as activism. It's really great. And I joined this community. I said, I just don't know. I'm embarrassed to ask for help because I don't want to ask, because I know women will step up while men stay garden in the background. Women will be the first ones to step up and say, I will help. And I hate asking women to give uncompensated labor. And Beth told me, she said, appreciate that. And they were all women in this meeting that we were doing online, this Zoom call. And all of them said, appreciating that at the same time. If they say, I want to help and you need their help and it's for a good cause, you got no business turning the help away. So thread this needle with me. How do we do this? How do I do this? They said, look, if you were to tell me I would pay you, you deserve to get paid, but I just don't have any money. But we have this need. And then tell them, if you have the money and the time and the means to help us out with this, and you're willing to do it, we will not turn you away. I will actively do something to support you. And just so that you know, if I had the money to pay you, I would just pay you. They said, then let them make let them make the choice. They said, yes, it's nice of you to care, but let us make the choice for ourselves. So If I had money to pay luminaries, I would pay them. I would pay them well. Joel Osteen is freaking rich for showing up with his extremely awkward looking ass and giving sermons that are boring as fuck and writing books my brother likes. So I won't say anything about the books, but my brother used Joel Osteen's books to get off of drugs. So I'm just going to let that part go. But his sermons are boring. Ours are awesome, especially with all the fucking swearing we do in it. But this guy's rich as. Do you know what his job was before he was the preacher for his church? He was his father's church, I should say. He was the video guy. He did what I do. He was the video guy for their church. Today he's worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And most of it from tax-free donations. Remember that scandal a few years ago? They found somebody had cut a hole in like the bathroom wall and taken a whole bunch of donations from the plates of this huge stadium church that they have, mega church they have there, and just like stuffed them in there. And apparently, I don't know what, forgot about them or coming back for them. And it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars that somebody had stuffed in. It's a money mill. And I'm sitting here like, and meanwhile, I have so many ex-Mormons who are like, you're not going to actually pay people to be clergy. You wouldn't actually do that because our value system we grew up in. This is why Beth Magnetic gave us a great Godless sermon when the Church of Korihor was brand new, saying we need to heal our relationship with money, because our relationship with money, especially Mormons and ex-Mormons, our relationship with money was toxic when we were taught this idea about priestcraft, that only wicked people, even Korihor in the Book of Mormon, argued against Alma, saying, and the Christians saying, you glut yourselves on the labor of these people. And Alma pushed back and says, I have not taken one C9, nor my priests have taken one C9 more than was necessary for the work. And Korihor lets it go. All right. So so he wins that point. Alma wins that point. But I in the Korihor argument, I even bring this up. I'm like, okay, so fair is fair. Korihor loses that point, even though he wins the debate. He loses that battle, he wins the war. But if that's true about Alma, it's certainly not true about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because while we were told that we need to give out of our pockets to do church work, our church that we belonged to, that we were paying 10% of our income to, was getting filthy fucking rich. And the people running it were getting filthy fucking rich off of our generosity. And telling us nobody would, if you expected to get paid to do work, to do God's work, then you're a wicked person. Well, they're getting fucking rich off of God's work. Never again. I said, if I had a church of atheists, we would pay people. Unfortunately, we don't have any money right now, but some things are changing. And this is part of what I'm excited about. I'm going to try and get through this here, actually make the announcements that we're going to make. So I'm going to be launching a new volunteer form. I'm still working on the details of like how the workflow goes. You fill it out. How do we track who is volunteers and so forth? But we now have a badge system. Sorry, I get this. I'll figure this out. We now have a badge system at korihor.org. So when you're logged in at korihor.org and you see me interacting anywhere, you'll see a little badge next to my name that says Herald. Luminaries also have a badge. Volunteers now will also have a badge. And basically these badges are a cool way to gamify things, but more importantly, it's a way for me to organize which pages people can see and which pages they can't see. Also, contributors have a badge, which is basically people who are now members. Not members of the Church of Korihor, but members of the website. And friends of Korihor have another different badge. So basically, by these badges, I can organize what you have access to. And that's very useful, a very useful feature I've discovered for this reason. So we are going to start receiving volunteers and organizing what skills they have and what you are willing to do to help out with the missions. I'm going to start ordaining more luminaries. That's going to be my main push. That's my challenge. That's on me to do. And getting more luminaries who will organize, and I can train and support luminaries in organizing volunteers and pulling together some work and doing work like this new mission, which I still haven't named. Looking for suggestions for names for the new mission to go out and start feeding some seniors. Maybe name it something less snarky, because we are probably going to wind up feeding a lot of people who are not atheists. You think I'm going out there to feed just atheist old people? You're out of your mind. That's not what this is about. There's no litmus test here. We're just going out into the community and we're feeding people who are hungry. And we're going to start collecting these people. Now, for luminaries, the time commitment is going to be greater. And so as I say, you're going to have to treat it like a part-time job. It is a volunteer part-time job because I don't have money to pay. And in the bylaws of the Church of Korihor, all clergy are volunteers, but who can receive donations and or a stipend, a living stipend, as those resources become available. In the future, my ambition is that we will have enough contributions and the church, through its church businesses, will make enough revenue that heralds will be supported directly by donations and sales, mainly by sales of things like books, art, jewelry, things like this, associated with the Church of Korihor. But that's like in 2 to 5 years down the road kind of thing. We're gonna grow this. We're gonna keep this moving, and it's gonna get bigger. And so between here and there, for luminaries and heralds, including myself, a lot of the support, financial support, is going to come in direct contributions. And this is another thing that I failed at, that I learned by failing. And I failed luminaries and I failed heralds, and I'm glad that I did. Heralds being myself and Jenny at the time. I'm glad that I did, because I learned this. I'm like, I made this too complicated. I need to make it simpler. So this is the exciting announcement, one of the exciting announcements. At the Church of Korihor, now if you scroll down to the very bottom of the homepage, there's a button that says Clergy Tools. If a person clicks on that and they are not a member of the Church of Korihor, they can't get to it. If you are a member of the Church of Korihor, but you don't have a luminary or herald badge, you can't get into it. You can log in, but you can't get to this page. On this page for luminaries, ordained luminaries and heralds, there is a form that says donation tax receipt. And basically, this is what the example that I'm going to give you of how this works. So your friend Elaine says, I love that you're talking about doing this. Is it expensive to do what you're doing? And you say, well, it's expensive, but we have volunteers who are willing to give blankets, or we have volunteers or gather blankets. Unfortunately, a lot of, life is expensive right now. And so it's like it's like a sacrifice for a lot of people, even just like the wear and tear on your vehicle. People have, a lot of people are willing to do the work, but don't have the resources to donate and to both donate and do the work. So yes, it is difficult. And your friend Elaine says, gosh, I hate that. I have $50 on me. Can I just give you cash? And you say, and this was like an awkward thing. Jules mentioned that she had people do this with her, that people offered to just give her cash, and she didn't know how to receive it and how to and like what the financial side of that looked like. I had people like my sister Nikki who have mentioned, what if somebody offers to just send me a Venmo? And it's like, and at first I said, just to have them go to the Church of Korihor and donate at the Church of Korihor. Then I discovered that in order to do that, when we do that, it takes a few days for the money to become available even to the church, let alone to go out and turn it around and give it back to the people. And I said, that's not going to do it. That's not going to work. It's too slow. And I said, and so I did a little research, and I said, what is the reason why we wouldn't just let people receive donations and just give a tax receipt? And the answer is, there's no reason. Any if they are ordained, if you are ordained with the Church of Korihor and you receive a donation, and just deposit it into your own checking account if you want to, or if we need to organize missions that are organizations under the Church of Korihor. Some people may prefer to do it that way. We can talk about doing that. But if you take that donation and turn around and use it for any purpose, that includes making updates and repairs on your car. It's hard to do this work if you don't have a car. If it's a little bit of money to help you pay rent, it's hard to do this if you don't have a place to live. If it's to help you pay to keep the lights on, it's hard to do this without electricity. It's hard to do this without a phone. It's hard to do this without, and it's certainly hard to do it without blankets, without ingredients, without decent, a decent range in your kitchen if you're going to cook food. And it's very difficult to do it if you don't have a decent car. So what if somebody just gives you a donation, says, I don't want to give a donation to your church. I mean, I'm cool with it going to your church and being credited to the church, but I'm giving this money to you because you're the one out here actually doing the work. And I said, that's the way it should be. But the church should acknowledge it and say, that's a donation to our church. We thank you for it. Give it to this person. Give it to the person who's doing the work. This is why I said, people ask me, Joe, how could it be that you started the Church of Korihor and you didn't implement tithing? Don't you want to get rich? Yes, but I don't want to get rich off of tithing. And so I say, to people all the time, come to the Church of Korihor at korihor.org. Please join the Church of Korihor as a contributor. You don't have to join as a member. You can just be a contributor that gives you access to the resources that you're going to need to participate and do our work, and to be a part of our community and have a good time, because we do that too. And $2 a month I'm asking people to give. Now I'm changing that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, and I'm going to try and get this all done here. I promise we're getting to it. We're not changing that amount. We'll get to it. But what I'm saying is this: is that I ask people to give $2 a month to help defray the cost of running the church's website and services. And because it's surprisingly expensive, it's surprisingly offensively expensive to do all this, and most of it is coming out of my personal pocket, which I'm happy to do as my donation to the Church of Korihor. But it's getting heftier. So this $2 a month, it actually makes a big difference. And now we have enough people who are contributors to the Church of Korihor. It's actually starting to take a little bit of the pressure off of me, and I'm grateful for that. There's going to be a way for people to do a little bit more of that if you have the means, and I'm not asking people to do that. But I've been saying from the beginning, if you have more money to donate, if you want to give 10% of your income or more or less, whatever you can, to the Church of Korihor and to our work, don't give it to me. Don't give it to the heralds, unless you really want to support me and my work, in which case I'm not in a position to tell you no. Give it to the luminaries. Give it to the people out there who are doing the work. I want this to be the most exciting thing you do with your life. Well, one of the most exciting things you do with your life, if you decide to become a luminary of reason. You have to pass a background check, and then you have to do some training. But then if you're passionate about being an officiant, do that officiant work. Go out there and get people married. Go out there and get people divorced. Go out there and get people, do overview meetings is something we're going to do. We're going to talk about these a little bit here. Anyways, but if somebody gives you money or art, a piece of artwork, or a service, somebody says, oh, let me, I don't have money to give you, but I can fix your car. Or I can lend you my kitchen for an afternoon. All you have to do is determine what is the monetary value of that service, and you can click one of these boxes in the form is other, and basically you just write in the description box what it is that they donated and how much it's. I'm going to figure this damn thing out, and people can write it off on their taxes. And this is a good way that we will be able to start to drive a little more funding for the work by keeping the money on the ground locally, and services and time, and keep things locally and make these missions really exciting. And people are going to go out there and start organizing to change the world and actually transform things. The first step for that is going to be this Clergy Tools page. This Clergy Tools page is also where we'll be doing some more things. I'll be putting up a ton of new website features on there. This is just the beginning. And I've tested it. It already works. It's not great. There are things I'm sure I don't know how I screwed up with this form, but we're going to figure it out. What happens is you fill out the form, including an email address. So somebody gives you a donation, you get their email address, and you're going to need their home address. Technically, that's supposed to be on every donation tax receipt. And as soon as you hit submit on that form, it sends an email from the Church of Korihor to that person whose email address is in that box. And that email says donation tax receipt from the Church of Korihor, and it has a link to the church's IRS letter that somebody can go and download if they, so that if they need it. And there you have all the information and everything that you need for that email to qualify as a tax receipt. Then all they have to do is forward that on to their tax preparer, and they can write it off on their taxes. So this is exciting. I also want to talk about what I'm excited about when it comes to officiant missions. I want the Church of Korihor to be a joyful place to be a luminary, because you can do weddings, you can do divorce ceremonies. You see this lovely woman as a luminary looks on as she goes to smash her wedding pictures. We still haven't figured out everything about what these divorce ceremonies will look like. I'm looking for luminaries who are going to help us to shape that and figure it out as we go. Ceremonies are fun. They should be fun, and they should be a great way to get people together and build community. And they're a great way to show the world that we Korihors actually care. We have heart, and we want to do beautiful things to serve our communities and serve the people in our community, including memorials. I have this example of this family who is burying a loved one's remains with an acorn. I know there's a lot of you out there who are passionate about this. This is the way I personally want to go, unless, of course, I'm sure some of you remember I was talking about doing ascensions, which is a funeral rite where basically we strap your ass to a giant balloon and send you off into space. I still want to do that. It turns out there's a lot of legal complication. So, okay, well, we'll mostly plant people, or we'll do whatever people are doing. You're getting buried, you're getting cremated, whatever you're going to do. You can arrange to have a Korihor, a luminary, come out and officiate and basically organize the ceremony and put it together for you, and do something beautiful for you when you go, or for your loved one who is an atheist. And we'll do it for absolutely anybody. You don't have to be a Korihor. You don't have to be an atheist. If you want us to come out and it would be consistent with your wishes to have a Korihor luminary, officiate your memorial service, we'll train luminaries to do that. And I think it'll be a great way for us to serve our communities. Once again, I'll be putting out more materials under the Clergy Tools button, so that people can give quotes for what is normal to offer to pay somebody to officiate in these capacities, what expenses are going to be expected to be covered, so that you can make sure that it's done correctly. And again, so if somebody volunteers and says, well, I'll pay you for this, that's not entirely tax deductible. I'll give training on how that works. Basically, if you're paying for a service, it's just like getting any other service from a church. If somebody is, however, saying, well, we're going to have to fly you out here to give my dad, my mom, my brother, or whoever, their memorial service, I'll donate that airplane ticket, and they go and buy an airplane ticket. Once again, You can go to Clergy Tools, fill out, this was an airline ticket, an in-kind donation, and this is this person's donation. Hit submit, and they get a donation tax receipt so that they can write it off on their taxes. So officiant missions are going to be, I want to get set up to where we at least have some before the end of the year, because in December is going to be the anniversary of the Church of Korihor. We're going to talk about how we, in the course of a year, we had organized to try and kill an asteroid that might destroy our planet. It's not going to destroy our planet. That might hit this Earth on December 22nd, 2032. We're all, and that we have organized for that. Also, that we have organized officiant missions, and now luminaries are doing weddings, doing memorials, doing divorce ceremonies, etc., all over America. That is my hope. That is my goal for by the time we complete 1 year. The next is spiritual directorship. I don't know how many of you know about this. Britt Hartley is working with Jim Palmer and the center, I believe they're called the Center for Non-Religious Spirituality. And they're doing a spiritual director program, training program. And I asked for information. I said, yes, this could be really good for me. It could be good for the Church of Korihor. And so I asked for information on, what if I was to do it? They're doing it right now in August of 2025. And when I got the email back from them, I went, oh, shit. I said, look, I got this from somebody at the organization where Britt is part of it. And they're like, is that a problem? Is it too expensive? I said, it's too expensive. It's too expensive for me. There's thousands of dollars. And I was like, it's not that it's expensive. It's that I'm not in a financial position to do it. But thank you for at least answering my questions. And I said, but I'm glad that organizations like yours exist. If I had more resources, I'd drop everything and I'd go do this spiritual director program where you can become an atheist spiritual director trained in their program. And I said, but coming out of that, I said, I really wish, here's the thing, spiritual directors, like, that's a job, right? But clergy are a different category of thing for me. For me, you shouldn't have to pay to become clergy. Clergy is a job, and you should get paid for it. And I said, but what do you do? And I get a lot of requests about this. Like, what does an atheist clergy do? Do you hear confession? Ew, gross. But some people said, I might not dislike that, actually. Oh, okay. I was like, well, what, do they give you spiritual advice? I said, well, we don't really have training for that. But if somebody completes training for it through one of these programs, then that person would be uniquely qualified to put together spiritual directorship and offer that. And so it'll be like, okay, so if you go out and get one of these programs, complete one of these programs, paying for it out of your pocket or, whatever, and you want to incorporate it into your work as a luminary, you totally could do that. And we will recognize it and say, this is a spiritual director, and that's part of your role as a luminary of reason. If that's what you want to do and you're passionate about it, then I say go for it. But then the other side of it is, I said, that plus, what if we were to hire, as we get more resources going, what if we were to hire some of these people who do spiritual directorship and say, will you come in and train us on how to do some basics, how to do something like advising a person when they are in grief, or advising a person when they are, at the end of a marriage, or at the end, or when they are, fill in the blank. There's a major spiritual moment in your life. Will you come in and help us? I understand, for example, that Natasha Helfer, who is a psychologist, does ketamine retreats where she helps women to use, I believe they use They use, as I understand it, they use in some legal way. They use psychoactives, hallucinogens, to basically help women to reconnect to their spiritual energy, to their femininity, and to their sexual energy. And I'm like, shit, wish I knew more about that. Well, not just in a perverted way. I am a pervert, but I'm like, I wish I knew more about that, so I knew how could we at the Church of Korihor do something like that, because that would be fucking badass. And I thought, would it make sense to us to just offer to somebody like Natasha Helfer and say, will you come out and do one of these for us, or teach us how to do it? And, and make sure that we're doing it in a way that is legal, make sure that we are doing it in a way that is effective, and one in which we are actually helping people with spiritual growth rather than causing more spiritual trauma. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to do that. I'd love to do it. I'd love to be an expert at it. I don't know how to do that. But Natasha Helfer, who was a friend of mine and I've known for many, many years now, or a few years anyway, she does. She's an expert at it. Let's bring her in and say, look, we'll pay you for your time. Come in, if you'll come in and give us a little training. I haven't talked to her about it. I've thought maybe we could do the same thing with Brett Hartley. Maybe we could do the same thing with Beth Magnetic. Maybe we can get some of these people. Maybe we can get Jim Palmer. Maybe we can get some of these people, these atheist spiritual directors, to come in and train us on spiritual directorship. Maybe we can get involved with some secular Buddhists or the Humanist Association. And so there's like lots of opportunities for us to grow as spiritual people and to develop spiritual practices. These are some ideas I have. I think that we could do overview missions where we get people together and do our unique atheist meditation. Why not? The Buddhists do it all the time, and people love them. They're great. Let's develop Overview, which is our compassionate meditation program, and develop it and go. And I'll go around the whole country. This is one thing I've wanted to do for a long time. I will go around the whole country doing Overview with people who are contributors or not. And we'll start this practice of organizing events where people come out and experience godless meditation in our unique way, and eventually we'll develop it. My dream would be that some point in time, 2 to 5 years from now, maybe, we will actually fund a study to compare how loving kindness meditation, which is just Buddhist meditation repackaged, compares with, they've done studies where they've shown using, I believe, magnetic resonance imaging, but I would love to see how it shows up with like brain waves and brains. What am I thinking of? ECCG. Jules will probably berate me here in a minute. No, Jules is sweet. Using brain waves to show that our meditation practice, how does it stack up to other meditation practices? I have no fear of saying, let's make it a friendly competition. Can Korihors come up with a more beneficial way of doing meditation than any God-based meditation? Better than rosary praying or any kind of prayer, better even than Buddhist meditation. Not going to make it an angry thing. Let's make it a fun thing. Overview missions. I have from the beginning wanted to do debate missions where we have people who are atheists who are passionate about debates, and we go and organize debates with people like, Trent Horn or William Lane Craig or Jacob Hansen or, these apologists from these different organizations. And we develop a debate mission where we go out, and part of our spiritual practice is we honor the tradition of Korihor and we debate. We go and do debates. And training missions that we will have, like I said before, that we can get spiritual directors who will come in and teach us how to be better atheist spiritual directors. So these are things that I want to see happen between here and when we complete 1 year of the Church of Korihor in December. This is the vision. I could tell you that I went into a grove of trees and saw glowing people over my head and looked up there. I'm not going to do that because I'm not Joseph Smith. I don't see the future the way it's going to happen because I'm not a prophet. Fuck that noise. I know how I can look backwards and see where I have failed so far and do better. Far and away, most of the failures of the Church of Korihor up until now have been my own. I am sorry. I'm a flawed person. I'm a flawed man. So the cards were against me from the beginning. But amidst my many failures in the Church of Korihor, cool. Yes, MB. We had this just a distract, just this beautiful distraction MB has for us. So we started this thing and we did one of it and we haven't done any since. But I put together this thing we called Luminary Council. I am going to start doing those at least on a monthly basis, and I'm hoping on a weekly basis going forward. My current plan is that we will do a live presentation on korihor.org, and people who will and luminaries will have to log in at korihor.org to participate in these live committee meetings where basically we are going to get together and we're going to talk about what needs you guys have, what ideas you have, and how I can support you and how we can organize better. Yes, we're going to have luminary councils. My goal is to have the first one in a while, at least in August. And we will invite people who are applicants to become luminaries to participate in that and to give us feedback and to bring some of the best ideas that I can't come up with between these two ears and get together and talk about how can we do better at this. Because the one time that I did this with Nikki and with Jules, we came up with some really good ideas. But part of my problem is that you guys, I have a day job. I can't even make it through a Godless sermon without clients contacting me. I literally work every day. And I love my clients. But at the same time, it's like, it means that a lot of things I commit to doing with the Church of Korihor get put on hold. My hope is that in the future, I will get better at making it, feasible for people to donate to the Church of Korihor and to donate to my work personally. If you are passionate about my dedicating my time to this work, but my goal is to make it exciting for people to volunteer, to sign up as volunteers and say, I don't care about doing a third job. I just want help, a second or third job. I just want help, and I will cook, or I will drive, or I will gather blankets, or I will find blankets, or whatever it is, right? There are some people who will be able to do it. And then some of those people are going to become luminaries. And the more people, I'm surprised how many times I talk to somebody about this and give them this vision. I want this to be like a part-time job for some people and a full-time job for other people. I just don't have the money to pay them. But if somebody were passionate about doing this as a project and get a little bit of this like entrepreneurial spirit almost, there's got to be a better word for this, but self-starter spirit, and can organize and manage their own finances and everything else, if I can support them in making it happen, I want to do that so that we can make an automated, efficient system where somebody can do this full-time if they want to, do it part-time if they don't want to do it full-time, or can just do it on an occasional volunteer basis as they are able to afford to, and do it at the level that works comfortably with the life that you have now, and be a luminary. And my role as a herald will be to support you in that job, if that's something you want to do. And volunteers, my ambition is this, to look at it this way, basically. My role as a herald is to support the luminaries. The role of luminaries is to support the volunteers. And if we keep that energy moving in that direction, I feel confident that we will be able to organize and bring more brains together bring more resources together, including money, but also including ingredients and blankets and first aid kits and backpacks and carts. You won't believe how often I found and hand sanitizers, hand sanitizer. I told you about Rapture, right? That at St. Mark's they would give people like a liter bottle of hand sanitizer. Some of you have heard me talk about this. Come to find out, the reason why these people wanted hand sanitizer was not to sanitize their hands, so it should be. That should be part of it. One of the women who volunteers with this organization, who works for this organization that I volunteered for, posted a picture this winter where they showed what these people are actually doing with these bottles of hand sanitizer. They were squirting it out on the ground and lighting it on fire and huddling around it with their bodies to block the wind and keep warm on the streets here in Salt Lake. That's what the hand sanitizer was for. And the number one thing that people asked me for, but even more than hand sanitizer, was pocket warmers. And I asked one of them, I said, and we would run out of, at St. Mark's when I was volunteering up there, we would run out of those pocket warmers faster than anything else. I said, first of all, I got to find out what these pocket warmers are made out of in case we could just like manufacture our own. If I could have my druthers, we would make our own pocket warmers. Do you guys know what pocket warmers actually are? Can I tell you this? There's a packet of water, usually like a little glass or plastic container of water, and then iron filings. It's inside a packet of iron filings. It's inside of another packet that protects it from when it leaks, and has just a little bit amount of air to act as basically as an insulator. And as soon as what you actually break, when you break when you activate a hand warmer, pocket warmer, what you actually are doing is you're breaking that packet of water so that it starts to oxidize the iron filings, and those iron filings heat up as they're rusting. And that's what hand warmers are. That's what pocket warmers are. And I went, holy shit, are you serious? And more people would ask for that more than anything else. I'm going to just finish this up. And then that's like the 6th call I've ignored from my clients this morning. I want to be able to support us in the best way possible, to create a system where we can take the resources that we have in hand, but more importantly, reach out to the broader community and say, we are atheists and agnostics who are people of conscience, and we want to change the world, and we need help because we don't have enough money, and we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough ingredients, we don't have enough blankets. We don't care whether you are godless like us. We just care that if you want to help, we need the help. And if you can give it to us, we will make sure that you get a tax receipt if that's what you want, if you want one. And if you don't, if all you ask for is an opportunity to help, we will take that help, Ben. We will take it because we're out here changing the world. And if there's people out there who can give a couple hours a week to feed seniors, to clothe, to warm unsheltered people, and just want to volunteer, we're going to start taking and collecting these volunteers. And don't be surprised if you volunteer, if you fill out the volunteer form, and then a luminary contacts you and says, you said you could help out. We need the help. Here's what you can do. And if you are a person who says, I believe in this, and I want to do it, I want to dedicate my time to doing this. And however I can make it work out in terms of finances and resources, I'm going to do it. And if that means giving out of my pocket, then it means giving out of my pocket. If it means asking other people to support me, if it means asking for the people on my live stream, if you're a YouTuber or an Instagram person or a Facebook creator or something, You can do that, or asking, friends and family to support you in doing it, and going out, and we'll go out, we'll organize meetings. And if what I can do is spend my time going out and advertising on podcasts, doing debates, doing meetings, going on TV, if we can get TV networks to cover what we're doing, going on radio programs all over the country saying, we are atheists who are people of conscience. If you want to help us, all the money goes to the work. If you can give just $1, give just $10, give just $5. If you can give it to a luminary, give it directly to a luminary. Help them and support their work. And if you can't, and if that's not feasible for, or not, if that's not plausible, you can give it to the church and we'll make sure it gets to the right place. It takes resources to make this work happen. And my goal between here and December 1st is to show that we managed to succeed amidst our failures. And there are luminaries all over this country. I'll probably fail at it, but along the way we will succeed. With Rapture, I showed that we can succeed. I showed that I will take on way too much personal responsibility and do too much of the work myself, and that will likely be a failure I repeat. But of the ways I failed, it's one of my favorite ones. But also, I hope that you see with these changes that I'm making to the website at korahor.org, that also what I am doing is I have succeeded at least in making some resources available so that people can go out and do the work. I have a vision for where this is going. Right now, because I'm the one who stepped up to begin with this, it's on me. One day it will be someone else. I'm sorry, not predicting anything nefarious or drastic. Don't misunderstand me. I built into the bylaws of the Church of Korahor when I wrote them with my directors, with our directors, that the leader of the Church of Korahor is the first herald. Then numerated after the first herald, as elected by our annual poll, our annual ballot, that the first herald will numerate who the other heralds are, and all in an order of succession. So first herald, second herald, third herald, so on and so forth. I'd love to see a day in the next 5 years where there are 20, 30 heralds. That would be beautiful to me. And as we need more people, we'll add more people. And if the first herald quits, steps down, dies, whatever it may be, I'm not predicting anything, but nobody does it forever. Or if the people of the directors call for a remuneration and say, let's remunerate, and take a ballot and say, if you were to elect a first herald, who would it be? And then used ranked voting and decide out of the votes that people put, I would organize them like this, like this, like this, like this. And then based on the outcome of that poll, we would determine who should be the first herald. It may be very likely in the future, people say, we love Joe, he did great, ExmoJoe is awesome. But let's cycle him out, cycle somebody else in, and see what the Church of Korahor will look like with somebody else in charge instead of ExmoJoe. And I telling you now, I believe that can happen. I hope it does happen. Not because I hate being first herald. I love it, but I sometimes when I lie down at night and I dream about the future of the Church of Korahor, there's a woman leading. Maybe a woman of color. Maybe a trans woman. For a year, for 2, for 10. And I'll show up to events. This is long-term thinking. I'll show up to an event and sit not in a pew, because pews are gross. I like love sacks. Or like those papasan chairs. Those are cool. I'd like to see a church in the future that is now a library and or observatory, and a meditation center, and I'll show up. Just Joe. Sorry. I'll just take a seat somewhere in the back, because I'm autistic and don't like. I like it when my back is to a wall and I know nobody's looking at me from behind. Crazy Ivan. Hunt for Red October references. And I'll sit there and participate like anybody else in Church of Coral. And maybe somebody will recognize me, maybe they won't. And maybe somebody recognizes me and points me out and says, "You see that guy over there? Sits funny. He started all this." And I love it. I love it. It's not going to happen this year. I'll tell you that right now, not at the pace we're moving. I do want to let you know I was going to do this very discreetly in a I am doing this very discreetly in a blog post, but I'm going to just mention it here. With all the love of my heart, for my dear friend Jenny Gage, who stepped up when I asked for friends to help me start the Church of Korihor and fill out the paperwork, literally put their signature, put their home address on the line, and file paperwork saying that they would be directors of the Church of Korihor to conform with the rules set forth by the state of Utah. The first person who said yes was Jenny Gage, who gave us her passion and gave us Godless sermons and helped out and gave us notoriety because she told people on her TikTok channel and on her YouTube channel about the Church of Korihor. I will be forever grateful to Jenny Gage, who a couple weeks ago contacted me and told me that she would like to step down as second herald and disassociate from the Church of Korihor while she focuses on other things. And I said, "Jenny, are we friends?" And she said, "Yes, of course." I said, "You'll be my friend?" And she said, "Yes, of course." I said that I'm happy for you. And of course. And so now Jenny has been disassociated from the Church of Korihor. Please continue to support her. Please continue to watch her content. She is my friend. She was instrumental in making the Church of Korihor happen. We are back down to one herald. It is my full expectation that by the end of the year, we will have somebody else step into that role, maybe two people, and we'll have a first, second, and third herald. It's my hope. I believe in what we're doing here. And I am completely sincere when I say, when someone asks me, what is my future? What is my role at the Church of Korihor? I tell them the Church of Korihor's purpose is to transform painful lives into lives worth living. My role as First Herald is to support my luminaries of reason. And we need more. Some of you are out there live now, maybe. But most of you, I think, are in the future. Hello in the future. Don't tell me what happens. I'm already scared enough. We're transforming lives into lives worth living. Will you help? We'll get better leadership along the way. I'm sorry. Right now, it's me. I'm doing what I can. And I'll get better. And thank you. Let's have something besides me crying to end this. Let's have something upbeat and positive. How about that? No, let's have something. Yeah. Let's have something on topic, but fun. Thank you all for being here. I believe in you. I believe in this. Let's change some lives. Amen.
We built this hall with borrowed bills, wrote these songs on broken windowsills. Our altar's made of old tin foil, a godless church built on digital soil. But if the poor church mice who passed those plates woke up with a Robin Hoods in their face, we robbed St. Peter right down to the floor. Finally make their God stand for something more. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. If Uncle Sam had their money, he could feed the folks they don't. The godly men get elected so that they won't. While they dance round the mountain with their golden calf, will cast their tablets down on Yahweh's behalf. When saints who pay to pray in their pews look to Korah or get some good news. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. Their golden gates won't let us in, nor the widows might redeem their sins. The grabbing images paint a hell so bold, but golden plates can't indulge their souls. With their 30 pieces of silver we'll escape their